Hey, welcome back. Today I want to talk about something that's quietly ruining more muffins, more pancakes, more quick breads than almost anything else. And most people have no idea they're doing it. It's overmixing. And here's the thing about it. It doesn't feel like a mistake while you're making it. It actually feels like the opposite. It feels like you're doing it right. Let me explain what's actually happening, because once you understand it, you'll never look at a mixing bowl the same way again. Flour has protein in it. When that protein gets wet and you start stirring, it forms something called gluten. Now, gluten is fantastic if you're making bread. You want that stretchy, chewy structure. That's the whole goal. But if you're making muffins or pancakes or a quick bread, gluten is the enemy. You don't want stretch and chew. You want tender. You want light, and every extra stir you give that batter after the flour's already wet is building more of that structure you don't want. So here's what happens in a real kitchen. You mix your dry ingredients, you mix your wet ingredients, and then you combine them. And this is the moment that decides everything. Most people keep stirring until the batter looks smooth. No lumps, no streaks, nice and pretty, just like you'd stir a cake batter or a bowl of pancake mix from a box. And that instinct makes total sense. Smooth looks finished. Smooth looks like you did it right, but smooth is actually the warning sign. By the time a quick bread batter looks fully smooth, you've almost always overmixed it. What you actually want is something that still looks a little messy. Streaks of flour here and there, few small lumps. It should look almost unfinished. That's the point where you stop. And I know that feels wrong. It feels like you're leaving the job half done. But that lumpy, imperfect batter is exactly what gives you a tender muffin with a nice dome top, instead of one that's dense, tough, and has those little tunnels running through it. You know the ones I mean, those weird air holes that show up when you cut into a muffin that just doesn't look right inside. That's overmixing. That's the gluten telling on you. Now, there's a second layer to this that catches people off guard. And it's not really about mixing technique at all. It's about measuring. Because even if you stir gently, if you've packed too much flour into your measuring cup, you've basically loaded the gun before you even started stirring. Most people measure flour by scooping the cup straight into the bag and leveling it off. That packs the flour down and can add anywhere from 20 to 25% more flour than the recipe actually calls for. More flour means more protein, means more gluten, means dense before you've even picked up a spoon. The better way, and I know this sounds fussy, but it makes a real difference, is to spoon the flour into the measuring cup, let it sit loose and fluffy, then level it off with the back of a knife. No packing, no shaking the cup, no tapping it on the counter. Just spoon and level. So really, dense baked goods usually come down to one of two things stacking on top of each other. Too much flour going in and too much stirring once it's in. Fix either one and you'll see a difference. Fix both. And it's honestly like a different recipe. One more thing worth mentioning, because it trips people up too. If your recipe calls for melted butter, make sure it's not piping hot when it hits your eggs or your milk. If it's too hot, it can start to cook the eggs a little or seize things up before you've even gotten to the flour. And that throws off your texture before mixing. Even becomes the issue. So next time you're making muffins or banana bread or pancakes, and they come out a little dense, a little tough, don't blame the recipe first. Ask yourself two questions. Did I measure my flour the light way, spoon and level, or did I scoop and pack? And did I stop stirring the second the flour disappeared, or did I keep going until it looked smooth? 9 times out of 10, that's your answer. Try it next batch. Spoon your flour, stop stirring while it still looks a little messy, and see what changes. I think you'll notice it right away. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week.